Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we're putting on our investigative journalist hats to piece together some deeply chilling data behind America's missing scientists. We're going to look at the hard facts, the geographical clusters, and some crazy historical precedents to understand a truly disturbing phenomenon that's been quietly unfolding since 2022. 11 of America's most brilliant minds have simply vanished or died under highly suspicious circumstances. So we're going to follow the data to find out why. Let's dive right in. Picture this. Your phone buzzes on your nightstand at 2 in the morning. You groggily pick it up, and it's a text from a friend, a high-level researcher at a national lab you haven't spoken to in months. You read these exact words. "They found the back door. If anything happens to me, don't believe the official report." You try to call them back right away, but the line is permanently dead, and by the time morning rolls around, their name is just another headline, written off by authorities as a quote-unquote tragic accident. You know, this isn't the plot of some Hollywood spy thriller. This is the terrifying reality for individuals at the absolute pinnacle of our national security apparatus. So let's start with Section 1, mapping the geographical kill zones where we visualize the data of these disappearances. What's fascinating, and terrifying, honestly, is what happens when you stop looking at these as isolated, tragic incidents and start treating them as actual data points on a map. A deeply disturbing spatial pattern emerges. Over on the left, we've got the New Mexico nuclear corridor, centered right around the Los Alamos National Laboratory, where 3 prominent scientists have disappeared. Now compare that with the California Aerospace Corridor on the right. This area is in shockingly close proximity to NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab, where 4 more experts have gone missing or turned up dead since 2023. We are talking about brilliant minds here like Michael David Hicks, Frank Maywald, Monica Riza, and Carl Gilmeyer. The geographical proximity of these disappearances to top-tier defense and aerospace hubs is practically screaming a systemic, coordinated motive. If we just zoom in on the New Mexico cluster alone, the details are incredibly unsettling. These are brilliant people intimately connected to classified logistics and advanced material science, and they're just vanishing into thin air. In May 2025, Anthony Chavez disappears from Los Alamos. A month later, Melissa Casillas vanishes while walking along a state road in Talpa. Then, by August 2025, things really escalate. Stephen Garcia leaves his Albuquerque home carrying a loaded handgun, but he intentionally leaves his wallet and phone behind. He is never seen again. And then, in February 2026, retired Major General William Neal McCaslin walks out his front door and never returns. These aren't just names on a page. These are human beings operating at the highest echelons of national security. Moving into Section 2, Echoes of the Marconi Cluster, we have to look at the historical precedents of silenced secrets. As an investigator, when you see a tight geographical pattern like the one we just explored, your immediate next step is to look for historical precedent. And unfortunately, this exact nightmare has happened before. This timeline absolutely proves this isn't some isolated anomaly. Back in the 1980s, we had the Marconi Cluster. This was an 8-year span where 25 scientists tied to the highly classified Star Wars defense program died. Then in 2010, John P. Wheeler III, a high-level Pentagon consultant, was found dumped in a Delaware landfill. His own colleagues suspected he was killed for the knowledge locked inside his head. And now, between 2022 and 2026, we have these modern corridors claiming 11 prominent scientists. We are looking at a recurring historical phenomenon where the keepers of our most classified secrets are silenced. This really illustrates the dark reality of these so-called accidents. The official line for the 1980s Marconi deaths was always just, a random tragedy of life and death. But just look at the modus operandi. We had researchers found with plastic bags over their heads, vehicles driven full speed into solid brick buildings. We even had a satellite pioneer who supposedly tied a rope to a tree and his own car in a bizarre decapitating incident that authorities incredibly labeled an accident. The motive for all of this? Protecting advanced propulsion and defense secrets. The bizarre and extreme methods of death from the 1980s perfectly mirror the highly suspect, coordinated circumstances we're seeing in our modern corridors today. This uncovers an even darker layer in Section 3, paranoia and directed energy, focusing on the tech trail and psychological terror. To truly understand the psychological terror preceding these modern disappearances, we've got to look at a third geographic cluster stretching from Massachusetts down to Alabama,
Insiders call this the tech trail, and specifically, we need to examine the chilling case of Amy Eskridge. She was a self-proclaimed anti-gravity researcher operating out of Huntsville, Alabama. Before she was found dead from a gunshot wound, she was warning literally anyone who would listen that she was the victim of intense psychological harassment. She claimed she was being actively hunted and targeted by directed energy weapons, advanced tech utilizing highly focused energy like lasers or microwaves.
Before her death, Amy left this haunting message for her friends. If you see any report that I killed myself, I most definitely did not. Now, to look at all the facts impartially, we absolutely must note that Amy's family has stated her tragic death was the result of chronic personal struggles, and they, along with other families, strongly caution against exploitative online speculation. We have to respect that. However, we also have to acknowledge that her final words echo the exact same crushing paranoia and fear felt by countless individuals working on the absolute jagged edge of national security.
Which brings us to the ultimate why in Section 4, the tech arms race motive, exploring the high stakes of strategic dominance.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is, why is this happening again, right now? What is the massive incentive required to execute a coordinated operation against 11 high-ranking scientists? Well, the answer is a staggering number: $285 billion. This represents the current hyper-aggressive technological arms race. We're right in the middle of a high-stakes battle for strategic global dominance, where the line between pure mathematics and raw global power has completely vanished. When billions of dollars and international supremacy are on the line, the people who understand the technology become both infinitely valuable and incredibly dangerous.
Let's see how this builds into what insiders actually call the jagged frontier, the unpredictable, razor-sharp edge of new technological capabilities. We are rapidly building a terrifyingly powerful automated future. Just look at the pressures on our current systems. We have a desperate hunt for energy that's so intense, we're actually restarting the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant. We've got incredibly fragile infrastructure, with AI-driven power grids literally failing in places like Northern Virginia. And we have massive corporate giants burning through $37 billion every single quarter to build what they call a new civilization of computers. The immense pressure on the human beings running these fragile grids and billion-dollar defense systems is reaching a catastrophic breaking point. The experts who actually understand how these gears turn are left entirely vulnerable.
As we wrap up this explainer, we've looked at the true crime narrative of the nuclear corridor, the chilling parallels to the Marconi cluster, and the intense pressures of a $285 billion tech arms race. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought about our 11 missing scientists. In a world racing at breakneck speed toward artificial supremacy, where machines are literally being taught to mimic human emotion, are the people who hold the keys becoming an obstacle to the very machines they are building? It's a heavy question, but it's one we need to ask before the truth is completely obliterated by the next news cycle. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking the hard questions, and I'll see you next time.